Hey folks, Jack from Moonshift Audio here. In this video I've got a quick serum tutorial to show you how I made the Juno bell keys patch from my Retro Serum Presets Pack. It sounds like this. This lovely keys patch is available for free in my Retro Serum Presets Pack. There's a link to that down below if you want to download it. There's over 50 more leads, basses, pads and key sounds in there for you. But let's jump into Serum and I'll show you how I made this one. Okay, so here we are in Serum and let's get stuck in. So oscillator A. I used one of the stock wavetables for this, and I used the PWM Juno because we're going to have a nice bit of wobble going on with the oscillators here. I put the unison up to 4. Detune, bring it right down. We don't want a really big detune on this. We're just going to have it nice and tight but still thick. Wavetable position, I put it up to about 40, so we're somewhere in the middle, and level can stay where it is at 75. For oscillator 2, I used one of the ones that I sampled in my studio, which was the Juno saw. Really nice, slightly imperfect saw wave there. The detune again, I set it back similar to the previous one, and unison of 4 again, so we're just adding a little bit of thickness. You can hear just with the wave shapes that we're starting to get a little bit close to the sound that we want. So let's move over to the filter, make sure it's working on both of the oscillators, and the 12 dB per octave low pass is absolutely fine for this. We're going to set the cutoff to just over 20k, something like that should be fine. We'll put a bit of resonance here, and we will also add a little bit of drive, just to rough it up a little bit if we're going analog. Now let's look at the envelopes. So envelope 1, which is just for the amplitude, we're going to leave a tiny bit of attack there, is fine. The decay will raise up to about 1.5 seconds. Sustain will bring down quite a lot because we want, this is a keys sound. We just want to hear that fading away just a little bit, and the release will bring up as well to about 1.5 seconds, so we just get that nice sustain on the notes. Envelope 2, which is for the filter, we're going to have 0 attack. We're going to have quite a fast decay, about 300 milliseconds, just over a third of a second. Sounds good to me. The sustain, about 50% should be nice. And the release will have, similar, like 1 point. Let's just bring that onto the filter cutoff, and we'll do a reasonable amount, I think, like probably 40, something like that, about up to max. Nice, we're starting to get there now. So now it's time to add a little bit of modulation to get things moving a bit. So I'm going to use LFO1 to modulate the wavetable position of oscillator A, and we're going to do that by probably about 40 or so. We can have quite a reasonable wobble. We're going to need to play around though with the speed of this oscillator. We're going to make it quite quick, and I don't want this linked to the BPM, so we'll turn that off. And and about like 2.5 hertz, something like that. You can just hear that's giving it a little bit of movement, a little bit of interest there. LFO2 we're going to use to do a classic pitch wobble. So again, I just want this free running, this kind of 6.5 hertz, something like that should be fine. And I'm just going to bring this a tiny bit, like maybe 10 or 11 or something like that for each one of the fine tune on these oscillators should do it. And what we're going to get there is just a nice bit of wobble to give us that analog feel. Moving on to the effects then. The first thing I used on this patch was a delay, just to give it a little bit of space, a little bit of interest. We're going to pull the EQ down because we don't want a load of high end and low end in the delay. I'm going to use this delay in ping pong mode, but I'm going to set the delay time for both of them the same. So we're going to use an eighth, but actually a dotted eighth is a really nice way to go with this. Feedback wise, we can leave this probably as is, about 40, and the mix we can pull down just a little bit perhaps. I'm not trying to give an actual noticeable delay, just to add a little bit of depth to this so that when it's in the mix it doesn't feel too upfront. Obviously all of this stuff you can play around with on a case by case basis, but we're next going to look at just a little bit of reverb. So the size is fine as is, and the decay we can leave. We don't, again, we're not going to be using very much of this, but we do want to scoop out the lows to help this not clutter up your mix too much. Same with the highs. And the spin and the spin depth we can leave as is. The mix 20%. Perfect. Chorus is another great one for these 80s style effects, so we're gonna leave the rate, it doesn't really matter too much to be honest, we'll leave it as is. Again, these are quite subtle effects. We're going to put the delay right down, the depth all the way up. The feed we can just leave again as well. We don't need the low pass filter to be affected too much, and we're just going to perhaps bring down the mix. Perfect. There we go. That's the Juno bell keys. If you found this video useful, please consider liking and subscribing for more tips, tricks, downloads, resources and tutorials here at Moonshift Audio. Till next time.